The Alberta Teachers Association says the government plans to legislate teachers back to work. The strike has reached for 3 weeks now. In that time, teachers haven't been paid, and students and their families have been scrambling. Labor relations experts say they're watching closely to see how the government writes this legislation and then how the union responds. Here's Stephanie Thomas.
Carrie Forster has been on strike and away from her grade 1 classroom in Airdrie to demand changes in education.
So there's a lot of complexities. There's a lot of kids. We're doing body break and we couldn't even move properly. And I found that for a veteran teacher overwhelming.
She hopes that an agreement can be reached at the bargaining table before the province legislates an end to the strike and to justify her unpaid time spent away from her passion as a teacher.
Government wants to kind of brush it under the carpet and just mandate us back and not deal with it.
The Alberta Teachers Association says it's preparing for the government to legislate teachers back to work. The legislature resumes the fall session on Thursday. The union is already speaking with lawyers on how to respond. One sticking point for them is classroom sizes and the student-teacher ratio.
There's only 2 provinces in the whole country that doesn't have any kind of protections within a collective agreement around class sizes and student-teacher ratios.
One labor relations expert says he is watching closely to see what the union may do after legislation is tabled and whether teachers fall in.
And for the union, there's a risk that they might turn on the union, because their frustration's got to go somewhere. So it's either going to go up against the employer and the government, or it might go against the union. So if the union's wise, they would be channeling that anger towards the provincial government, which is probably not that hard.
The Alberta Federation of Labour says other unions under negotiations are also prepared to rally against the province.
They can't just use their legislative power to impose a contract without negotiation. That breaks the Constitution.
Legislation would likely pass through quickly, despite the NDP's plans to block it.
It violates their right to actually advocate for themselves and for their students and for their co-workers, and it doesn't solve the problem.
And Stephanie joins us now. So, Stephanie, what are the options left for Alberta teachers if that legislation is passed, presumably on Monday?
Tara, labor relations experts tell me that there are 3 possible outcomes that could result in the near term. One is that teachers are legislated back to work under binding arbitration, which would be decided by a third party. The second option would be teachers return to work under a work to rule status, which means that there would be no voluntary or extracurricular activities beyond the scope of a teacher's work. And the third option is that teachers could defy the legislation and continue to strike illegally. Now, another thing that labor experts are looking at is to whether or not the province incorporates the notwithstanding clause in the legislation, and that would block the union's ability to launch a legal charter challenge against the province. And as I mentioned earlier, Tara, the ATA does confirm that it is speaking with lawyers about what it could do next.